Waiting for it. Oh,
There we are.
and there we
I see
are.
our smiling faces. I'm just going to mute that now, though.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
You ready?
All the alerts are going off.
Whenever you are, oh, hang on. I'm professional. I have the werewolf host selected.
Oh, am I Steven this week?
Steven! All right. Whenever you're ready.
Guys, Cyberpunk is so freaking good. Phantom Liberty is like one of the best games I played this year. You know what's not the best game I played this year? Literally everything on the list we're going to talk about today. That's right. Awful Nintendo 64 games today on.
Good Lord, that was loud. Okay.
Are we?
Yeah.
Is everybody
Is that
okay?
my sign?
Sorry.
Well,
sorry.
You didn't give me the sign.
Oh, yeah.
You don't get no sign.
Okay.
Wow.
It's my first podcast day. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Press Me to Cancel, your favorite retro gaming podcast. Well, unless we hurt your feelings with one of the games we're going to talk about today. This week, it's awful, terrible, bad N64 games. That's what we're talking about today. But I'm not alone. No, I am joined by two good friends, my fellow wardens in this prison that Nintendo has created to store all these shitty games. Sorry, YouTube. Cesar, how you doing this week?
I am fantastic. I've got my motorhome ready for a trip next weekend. I'm excited, and I'm here. So everything's coming up, Millhouse.
I can think of nothing better than escaping on a motorhome away from the Nintendo 64. Jared, how you doing this week?
I'm all right. We've got some new representation. Not a sponsor, almost a sponsor. My drip game is fucking hot. Sorry, YouTube, but nothing more drippy than this pile of shit we're literally going to talk about here real quick. That's called a segue.
No, that's masterful work, sir. Masterful work. All right, look, I'm going to start off by saying when I was a kid, Nintendo 64 was new. I saved my allowance, my Christmas money, the whole bit. It was an expensive system, especially in Canadian dollars. I remember I couldn't get it for Christmas. It was sold out literally everywhere. It was like, I think it was like 27th, 28th, though, just after Christmas. That's the one. I was able to get a tip that a certain store had it. So my mother said, okay, go get your damn video games. I hopped in a bus, went to this mall in a shitty part of town. It was like after dark, which is Canada. So we're talking like 4 p.m. And I found it. I got my copy of the Nintendo 64 and I got Mario 64. And I loved the Nintendo 64. Why am I telling you this? Because I love the Nintendo 64. I do like the console. So I want to start that off right off the bat. I like Nintendo 64. I like Nintendo. Now, I feel when I was growing up, all my friends that had this system, we all had the same freaking 4 to 7 games. We all had Mario 64. We all had GoldenEye. We all had Mario Kart. I mean, somebody might have had Wayne Gretzky and somebody might have had Turok.
Ocarina of Time, when the
Majora's
Mask, Smash Brothers, the new Tetris. I mean, there are a swath of very good games. There are.
But from everybody I grew up with that had this system, it's got to be the same 12 games across the board. But there's hundreds of titles for this console. It's not a small library. I mean, I know compared to the Wii it is, but to, otherwise it's a decent sized library. But there's a lot of trash on this console. So we're talking about bad N64 games this week, and we got a few selected here. Some that we have personal experience with, and a couple that actually pulled from a list. I want to see what other people considered bad for the Nintendo 64. And I'm going to start off with one title that several lists note this is one of the worst on the system, but I personally like this one, and that's Hexen. Hexen 64, or just Hexen. And this is a PC title that was ported to the N64. It wasn't the only shooter like this that was. We had, Doom and
Doom 64, yeah.
Doom 64, Quake 2 was on the N64, as well as what's the name? Not George Lucas. What's his name? chew gum and kick ass. What's that guy?
Oh, Duke Nukem.
Duke Nukem.
Duke Nukem. Thank you.
George Lucas.
I don't know.
What in the
In my-
hell?
In my head, it was George Lucas. I don't know why I got George Lucas and Duke Nukem confused. I don't know. But Duke Nukem was also on the Nintendo 64.
Clearly
a
the
long
same
week,
career
okay?
path.
It's been a long fucking week.
Oh,
I'm tired.
I have the video up, and the Vaseline graphics from the 64 are fantastically in this.
So let's start off by saying Hexen was ported by Software Creations in 1997. It is a port of Hexen that was on the PC from, I think, 95, which is Raven Software, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And my notes say the bad was it was a cartridge format, so it didn't have the FMV or the CD quality music that was on the CD version of the Windows game. But that's expected. It's a cartridge format. But it had consistent FPS, and it says here high detail and smooth filtering. So I guess for this couple of reviewers, we're saying that the Vaseline graphics were a highlight.
Ah!
Did you guys play Hexen?
I played
all?
Hexen on the PC.
Same. I
Okay.
also played Hexen on the PC and never touched it because my thing was back then, keyboard and mouse ruled all FPSs. So I could not imagine at the time touching a controller for any of these games. Which
Yeah.
which now when we play anything that's first person shooter on a console, it doesn't seem so odd. But back then, I could not imagine playing an FPS on a controller.
The difference is, though, is you have to remember the Nintendo 64 had a single analog stick. And the reason it feels normal is because you have movement and you have look on two different devices. And this is the same device for movement and look. And it's weird. It feels weird.
It was a weird
It's jarring.
adjustment doing the panning and the strafing and the back and forward with two different controllers. I remember that transition was
Well,
hard for
Is there
PlayStation 2 as well.
Is there strafing in this game on
No.
the 64?
No, there isn't.
Okay.
So
Maybe
here's
they
what the
didn't have
controls
it.
are, because
Okay.
I was playing it earlier today. There's forward and back by going up and down, and then left or right on the stick will actually turn the character. And then the D-pad, up and down, will change your view, because this is one of the old school first-person shooters that had that up and down movement a little bit.
Oh, so
There's
you
no
had to
strafing. And
literally... This is a game that required the three hands that were
Yep.
required for the Nintendo 64 controller. I gave up my third hand in 1998, so I can't play this anymore.
I lost my third ham and numb.
It's but you know what though? From this week, my research on all the N64 games, all the first-person shooters, even the ones I like, all control absolutely shitty. And
Yes.
I was struggling, and that's my problem with doing the testing this week. I don't have an N64 controller. I was available to hook up via USB, so I'm trying to finagle an Xbox controller to the PC to play these games.
Right.
And I found a lot of
Well,
them,
there's your first
Turok and a
problem.
few other ones. I had to keep changing the inputs to make it feel right.
Mhm.
Well,
So
if you played it with a PS5 controller, you probably would have had better success. But this is different.
really, you think so?
Yeah, I think
I
so.
don't know. Better
No, I'm
luck
pretty
than just
sure.
banging my head against my desk with
gentlemen-
one hand behind my back.
Gentlemen, we already had this discussion.
Yeah, I know that's true.
I still don't
Gloves
care
are
for the
most
results.
better controllers. But look, I like Hexen. I rented this game for the N64. I didn't have a PC when I had the Nintendo 64, and despite the shitty controller, I actually really liked this game. I felt it controlled okay. I like the exploring and breaking stained glass windows. I like the different classes. You have 3 classes to play from. Like I was never
Listen,
a huge
you're
fan
playing-
of Quake, but this was
You're
so good.
playing medieval Doom. That's all you need. I mean, the idea of
Yeah.
Hexen and Heretic in that time was cool as hell because it was Doom, but it was all fucking medieval. So swords and magic and all that other shit. That's fucking sick.
Okay. I'm going to call this game out for the problems that it has. And the first one is I'm watching you now in your video that you provided me. I'm watching you literally up, down, up, down.
Yeah.
Like, treat it like Doom. Treat it like Doom where you don't actually have to aim up or down, right? Like, and then...
Well, you have to, because the flying enemies are in this.
But Doom treats it as you have up and down motion as far as movement, but your guns always hit whatever is aiming left to right, right? I mean, modify it so that it is simply that function, right? I mean, but okay. And then the second thing is the soundtrack to Hexen is a banger. And if it doesn't have that soundtrack, oh, I
It's a
mean,
loss.
It's
You're
true.
not
yeah.
wrong.
It's true.
yeah,
It's still not a bad port, I think. And for
sure.
somebody like me who grew up without the PC, I think this is a great exposure to it. And it's funny how for me, like Command and Conquer, Doom, Quake, all those, my first exposure to those was on the Nintendo 64,
Hmm.
which is kind of strange. So
Interesting.
maybe it's nostalgia glasses for me, but I feel like this one is not so bad. The
But-
biggest knock against it I think I have is that it's that sprite billboarding style of graphics. They're not 3D models. And on the
Right.
N64, that feels weird to see
Yeah.
the enemies that are completely 2D, but it's a 3D game. That's kind of strange. And but I mean, it's to be expected when you realize it's a port of a Windows game.
I mean, it's a successful port. Honest to God, I
Mhm.
think transferring it off of the PC into a console format, I think the 64 was the first console to kind of take those PC ports and put them into a console format. Correct me if I'm wrong. I may be wrong on that, but I don't recall playing
It-
Doom,
it-
Quake, or any of those things on anything else that was powerful enough to
It-
handle it in a console format.
It unlocked the ability to do 3D perspective, right? I mean, that was the
Right.
whole premise behind the Nintendo 64 and working with Silicon Graphics was it was really the first 3D engine on a console, right? I mean, you had 3DFX and stuff on Rage cards and everything on PC, and this really, the PlayStation 1, the PSX had some 3D elements, but it still was like a 2D console that had 3D tacked on, right?
Right.
The N64, Jake, we talked about Super Mario 64, or sorry, Dr. Mario 64, which is a 2D game. And you pointed out, it feels weird because it feels like they're smashing 2D into a 3D rendering engine, right? I mean,
Right.
and it makes sense. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, this console, for its era, really was the introduction of 3D on consoles. And so you're also going to run into all the jank. I mean, as much as I love Super Mario 64, the
Oh, shaky
3D
as fuck.
the 3D jank is bad.
Well, so
It's not a
is
great
so
looking
is
game.
Ocarina of Time is one of the top rated and talk boasted about Zeldas in recent years.
Yeah.
But if you go back and play it now, it is so freaking broken because it's so janky. But it's the same thing.
They need
I've
to
gone back and played it and been like, what did
Yeah.
I like in this? Like, this is so messed up. And I've seen people rage that love this game and like it's been so many years since we played it.
they need to give it the treatment that Metroid Prime got, where they brought
Yeah.
it to modern controllers, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, fuck
yeah.
yeah.
Uh-huh. So
The thing
yeah.
that people don't realize about Ocarina of Time is that there's no jump button.
No.
There's like a little auto hop, and that's
Uh-huh.
about it, right?
Yeah.
It's the controls are kind of odd with the N64, but I mean, first generation 3D, right? That's what it is. And to be fair, PlayStation and Saturn both had 3D,
Yeah.
and they both got a couple of these games. I think Hexen was on the Saturn, and I think Doom was on. I mean, Doom was on the Super Nintendo to be
Yeah.
honest. But I mean, I think there's something unique with the N64 ports and how they did it, and I think they did overall well. But taking a game like this and putting on a system that is supposed to be about 3D models and 3D graphics and polygons, but this is a sprite-based
Yeah.
first-person game, I see why it got some hate, and I can see why it's on that list.
To be fair, it's, if I remember right, it's sprites on the PC as well, right? I mean, I think
Yeah,
I think that's a 1-to-1 translation. So okay, well, that was a good candidate. I mean, it's one of those, if we're going to talk about, I don't know that you put it on your list, but I did test battle tanks with an X. And
we can talk about
Wor-
it.
we
Yeah,
can.
tell
World
people
of
this
Tanks
story instead of
before it was World of
Okay.
Tanks.
Story is something else.
So it's a game about the worst version of fridging in the world ever. If for those that are unaware of what fridging is, I guess it came from a comic book or a movie or a TV show or something where a female was literally put into a refrigerator and had to be rescued. And that was the whole premise, was like, it's that whole, the females can't save themselves, men have to do it, and it's called fridging. Well, in this in this title, in Battletank's title, there is a virus or bacteria, a disease that is wiping out 99.9% of females.
Okay.
And I don't
In the
know
far, far future of what year?
of 2012?
2001.
Oh, 2001.
Oh,
that's
that's-
right.
The game
Fantastic.
released in
So, like,
1998.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, it's like 3 years later.
Time
Fantastic.
frame of 2001.
Well, to be
Well.
fair, you're driving around M1 Abrams tanks, right? I mean, so it is
Casually,
Yeah.
might I add.
Yeah.
Yeah. Up
Yeah.
and down streets, going to the grocery store. I gotta
Now-
stop by Safeway. Better take the Abrams out.
Now, I'm going to give this one, since Drew says it was a comic book, I'm going to give this one a mixed review because the story of the exposition is so bad. It is so bad. And then for some weird reason, it has these horrendous load times for the story at the beginning. Like it goes to a black screen and you're like, did the game lock up? Oh, it's back.
It's a cartridge for Christ's sake, too.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
even the worst. Why would a cartridge have fucking load times like that?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Uh,
This isn't Chrono Trigger on the PS1. Come on.
Right. Right. So, but once you get into the actual gameplay, it actually has elements of enjoyable gameplay. You're literally just, I mean, sure, it's a tank. It looks like an M1 Abrams.
It's like a
But it's-
destruction derby with tanks.
It is.
But it looks
Kind
And
of,
it
yeah.
has some of the greatest jank. I love it because everything that you shoot deflates, not explodes. Walls on buildings deflate. And then if you drive over a cop car whose lights are flashing, it goes from a 2D cop car from a 3D cop car to a 2D cop car, and the lights are still flashing. I mean,
beautiful.
Yeah.
but
Well executed.
But the gameplay, once you get into the gameplay, I mean, it's a driving simulator where you can shoot things, right? I mean, how wrong can you go?
It reminds me of
there is one thing it does
Destruction
wrong.
Derby on the PS1, but with tanks. Like that's
Yeah.
legitly when I watched the arena-esque type
Uh-huh.
battle, it just felt like the game Destruction Derby, but you were blowing shit up instead of running into one another.
Right. What did
The
it do
thing
wrong?
with this gameplay, though, is you're a tank, but in this game, you can't control the turret. Again,
Oh.
this
Yeah.
just goes back to it's a single joystick game. It's a single analog stick, and it just
Right.
you're literally driving a car that looks like a tank. It's
But
kind of
you
odd.
have shoulder buttons, right?
Well, one of them is fire. So
Why isn't the trigger? Why isn't the Z trigger fire?
maybe it
Okay,
was.
okay.
Hang on, maybe it was. Anyway, I forget because I had to use my third hand, so I forget.
I thought you lost that in 89.
I borrowed one from a friend.
I found it. It was under the sink.
I found
That's
it.
right.
Yeah.
I dusted it off, gave it a bath.
Awful.
But Jake, the reason I was holding up my finger is there is a second Battle Tanks, and this belongs on the bad game list. I don't know if you have it in the video. You have Battle Tanks the
I don't have
original.
the video. But
Okay.
I did play
Well,
it earlier.
let me-
And you're
Yo,
right because
is
this improved on
2024 going to be the
controls.
top
or did
100
it?
worst games
So the very first, let's see, hang on. I gotta pull up the video for Battle Tanks here. Okay. So the second one, the turret moves, but it moves, it's Hexen like in that you turn left and it turns the thing, but if you move forward, all of a sudden the tank starts to pull with the like direction of the turret. So it's like this half-assed version of the turret moving. Once again, we're dealing with one stick. And I agree, Chard, left and right bumpers should have done it. But that would require you to move your hand to the third position because it is controlled with a stick.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The
To me,
buttons
just
on the N64 controller don't make a whole lot of sense unless you were to play this game with a D-pad, but very few games did that. So
Right.
it's-
All right.
But I'm with you. The gameplay is not. It's not bad. It's kind of like a B game. But the graphics aren't the greatest. It's very gritty. The fog, the Nintendo 64 fog is legendary, and it's a great example on this for sure. The second made it a little bit further view, but the first game, all you see is fog and the pavement directly in front of you.
Yep.
It's kind of odd for how little's happening on the screen, but it's got its charm. I don't think it's terrible.
Listen,
it's not good.
You know what has charm? Earthbound. That
Earthbound.
shit's charming as fuck. This does not have charm. This has tanks that you can't move back and forth. It's ridiculous.
I do like how you have tank bucks, and that's basically your lives. And the first, I spin the game up, and then like there's a tank in front of me, and Sinister's like, "Okay, you shoot that." I'm like, "Okay," I shoot it, and then I go forward, and I bulldoze into a crate that explodes, and I die instantly. There goes my tank bucks.
Yeah.
I spend 10 tank
Not
bucks
your
to get
tank
another
bucks.
M. Abrams. It's so stupid.
Yep.
How much is an Abrams worth in tank
$10.
bucks?
Thus is the economy of 2001, a dark future. Tanks are only $10.
Nice.
Reverse inflation.
All right, I'm trying to get to
inflation. It's all I can afford.
Wait. I have
$40 worth of coupons for tank bucks.
I have to read this. The virus having burned itself out is no longer a threat. The remaining survivors of the devastation now face extinction because every 1,000 males, there's only one female.
Oh, God.
This exposition is so bad.
Wow.
You're,
So
what
tanks.
do they call it? You're
So
a
we bring
battle
tanks
lord?
into the mix.
No, you're only
That's
a
how we
battle
get
lord.
date.
You're only a battle lord in number 2.
Oh, that's right, in the sequel. In the first one, you're not yet a battle lord.
Wow.
So Sintra said this was a comic book? That
No.
makes much more sense.
No, she said that the fridging came from a comic book.
No, not the
Oh,
game.
okay.
No.
Yeah.
The term.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
All right, so I've now got gameplay up, and I hope you had some good deflation here.
Griffin Spade.
Oh, this is where you
Tank
drive.
driver.
That's where you drove into the exploding containers. Yeah.
Oh my
And they tell
God.
you nothing, right?
No.
You kill it. Like, why would I expect a tank to explode instantly on a crate? It's
Loser.
silly. Yeah,
Wow.
loser. There was later on, I got stuck in level 2. I didn't know where to go. And then you're like, oh, you can destroy terrain. I'm like, oh, of course you can. You're a
Oh,
tank.
There was a deflating building. Watch for the deflating building.
But you don't think about it. This is
Yeah.
silly. Oh, there it
Well,
is.
yeah, like the graphics.
It's
are
not. It's
definitely
like
the
melting
cut-
into itself.
Yes,
Wow.
literally.
I remember the
melting
first
buildings
time-
when you blow them.
I
up.
remember the first time I drove a tank.
I like how, Jake, when you were recording this, you were avoiding driving over the vehicles. I just drove over everything.
Yeah. Jake's driving it like it's an actual car. I love the backup. I love the back. Wait, nope. Even though it's a destroyed car, I am not running over it. It's
And
the Canadian in him. He just can't be mean.
And the
Check.
hopping
Yeah.
suspension on a treaded vehicle.
You got hydraulics on that bad boy?
On a
Is
treaded
that an
vehicle.
Impala?
Is
Is
so
that an Impala Abrams?
okay, so as much as we're bashing on this, the second one is bad. The second one is genuinely bad. The first one, I'm going to give it 3 out of 5 stars. It could, as far as the gameplay goes, I'm going to give it 3. The story, I'm giving a 1.
Oh, it's
A
awful.
very solid 1. So,
And it's long. It's like
Yeah.
a 5-minute intro.
I mean, what are you
and
gonna?
it's just
What
long.
story are you gonna come up to be like? All right, we're in a post-apocalyptic world where tanks are trying to kill one another. Let's take all the women out.
yep.
That's how we got here. So we got here by toxic masculinity. Fantastic. Super pumped.
Toxic
It is
masculinity.
Very much a 90s game.
Toxic masculinity, the game.
Yeah.
Actually, I think there's a lot of games that are toxic
It's got
masculinity.
wait. The fucking tank has a license plate.
You know what it
Yeah.
says? You know what it says? It says "Eat me."
Oh, Jesus God. So now I
Look,
gotta
man.
register my tank with the
In the dark
DMV?
future of 2001, you must register and get a license to drive your M1 Abrams
A,
tank.
a vanity,
Sorry,
a vanity plate.
A vanity plate.
this tank does not appear to be on our record, sir. We're gonna have to pull you over. License and registration, please.
You have to go to like the TMV to get your picture taken. And they're like, "What's your occupation, sir?" Battle Lord.
Tank
Oh,
driver.
oh, this is, I think, where I told Jake to drive over the flashing cop car lights and
Oh, here
see
it is.
it.
Yeah, I want to see
Yeah.
this. I
So
wanna
hang on,
see
he turns
this.
back. I think he turns back around, and I tell him to drive over
Okay,
it.
yeah. Hold on.
Let's see.
You can't get past the spikes yet. We got to drive
No,
over the cop
no.
car.
So, but I think I tell him here, drive over the cop car, and then why have you guys been keeping this gem secret for so long? You know,
This is a hidden gem.
yeah, it is. Okay, so here he goes. Here
I
he
don't know
goes.
a gem, but it's definitely
Okay.
hidden.
So
It's hidden and a gem.
he just drove over
EB.
it, and you'll. Oh, it's later on. Anyway, but
There you go.
oh, there it is. The flashing lights. Okay. All right. So we've talked battle tanks.
It's awful.
Yeah.
Somebody got their Adobe for the first time and got to play with lens flares.
Right. Right.
But it was new
Wow.
for the N64. This is all untreaded ground, right? Except
I mean,
tank
you're
ground.
right. We're looking back several years later after the release of this console, and it's hard to poo-poo what was there at the time because we're spoiled with what we have now with video cards and the cyberpunks, as you mentioned at the beginning. I mean, when I played King's Quest 7 and saw the Crystal Dragon, that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my goddamn life. And I look back on it, and it was like 2 frames per fucking second. It was so bad.
Yeah.
But it was so cool at the time. Like I get it, and we're definitely got nostalgia glasses for probably quite a few of these games going through the console.
So I kind of viewed it when I did my homework earlier this week, and Werewolf was with me, and I kind of viewed it as they saw Carmageddon on the PC. And they wanted to make an analog, but they couldn't have, because it's a family-friendly Nintendo console, they couldn't have you driving over civilians, right? Because it kind of looks like a Carmageddon, you know?
Well, so
Yeah.
at this time this game came out, a couple years prior, there was a very successful arcade game, and it was a tank multiplayer battler. It was much like this game, although it was more modern time frame, like it was more present day time frame, and it was Japanese tanks. And that, to its credit, controlled great, but you're also in an arcade machine and you had
Yeah.
proper tank controls and the
Yeah.
turret was immovable and whatnot. But this feels like that in terms of spirit of an arena tank game. So I see with that combined with the theme of Carmageddon, I see where they got to this.
Yeah.
But that plot, that exposition is just bonkers crazy.
I swear it's the same thing before where it's like, Johnson, Escape's coming out. We need a plot. Give me a story. And he's like,
99.9% of women die.
He looks like the guy from fucking Die Hard that he's like, babe, I'm your white knight. I got it. 99% of the women gone.
Die.
Tanks.
They die.
But when there's 1,000 men for one lady. How do you get her? Fucking tanks.
Fucking
Done.
tanks.
Sold. Let's get it done. Ship it. It's done. They're like, we ain't got time. Sure. That sounds great, idiot.
It's wild.
Okay.
So this is a game that was not the greatest for the N64, but I mean, you and I have had some fun with it, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I want to talk. There's 2 genres on the N64 that I want to talk about this episode.
Oh no.
One of them is one that the N64 is known for, and one of them is a genre that it's maybe not meant to be. So let's talk about that one first. Let's talk about fighting games on the Nintendo 64. There are some good ones. Killer Instinct is absolute banger on the N64. They did an amazing job there. Mortal Kombat Trilogy, surprisingly decent considering. I mean, the thing with the N64 controller is you do have 6 face buttons technically, and if you use them, it's cool, right? So there are
you
some
had the
good
analog
games on
stick
there.
too, so you could do, you know, the half circle attacks and all the stuff that you couldn't do on the controller that you would be breaking your goddamn thumbs on either the Super Nintendo or the Genesis.
Look, we considered it a rite of passage when you broke your thumb on the D-pad.
Nintendo, Boopy, I'm your white knight.
But you can also use D-pad too for fighting games.
Sure.
D-pad made sense for a lot of these games. But there's definitely a lot of fighting games on here, and a few of them are actually by Midway, the Mortal Kombat guys.
Oh, these were some gems. These were some gems.
They were all gems. I mean,
maybe not so hidden.
Let's start with BioFreaks, because Chart, I think you mentioned you had played that way back when. Midway did this back in 1998. Bio freaks. What do you know about this one?
I remember renting this game at my friend's house she had the Nintendo 64, so we'd go over there and hang out with her and play the stuff. She had all the Nintendo stuff. This was my friend that had all the Nintendo stuff, and I had all the Genesis, Sega stuff. And I specifically remember playing this, and I remember she called me over and she's like, "We got to try this fighting game out. Let's do this." And I was like, "Oh, okay, let's do this." So we get in there, and it's a fighting game. It's a 3D fighter. You're in the future, so it's again another dystopian world where everybody is fighting against. I don't know the story of this game at all. Of course, it's Midway, so I'm like, "Yo,
Well,
Mortal Kombat, Midway,
Freaks,
Sapphire." I get
Freaks is an acronym. Flying robotic
yes.
enhanced armored killing synthenoids. Synthenoids.
Synthenoids,
Not humans.
Or sorry,
Not humans,
synthnoids. But yeah, synthnoids. Anyway,
whatever.
yeah.
They had, but this game was cool because you had a dude that was like a helicopter guy. You had the dude with the machine gun arms, a fucking minotaur, butterfly stabby lady. I mean, there was some cool creatures you could be in this game. The problem with this game is, I mean, though you could be all these cool things and you could fly around the arenas and stuff, and it was in 3D, which we had not seen. We'd always had side scrolling. Even Mortal Kombat was a side scroller kind of thing. The problem with this game was it's not good for fighting up close like a fighting game should be. It's basically, how good are you with your ranged weapons? Because pretty much everything had something that fired. And if you could shoot more than the other person, you were the winner. You could literally skirt this entire game by using projectiles and not a single other move. And if I remember right, using the projectiles was not difficult. It didn't require like a lot of different hand motion. It might have actually been a button that you just pressed. And it was like, whoever can shoot the most won the fight. But this implemented the same stuff because it is Midway. It implemented the same stuff that Mortal Kombat had. You could dismember people.
Yeah.
You could take off their robotic arms or eliminate some things. There was blood. There was oil. There was a lot of really cool aspects, and the ability to use the full arena to because you basically would roll around a guy or something. You just saw it in the thing. It made it a lot more exciting. And as broken as this game is now, at the time, it was my first 3D fighter outside of Virtual Fighter and all that other stuff. I hadn't played that at the time. We played this, and this helicopter dude with the flames and the spinning claws was awesome. He's shit now, but it was a cool character, and I thought it was a cool concept coming into the Nintendo, especially like you said, family-friendly Nintendo, and we're taking people's arms off and shit. I mean, we didn't see that on Nintendo, right?
So I tried this game out and I played the helicopter dude, and I understand that there are some really good concepts, but the controls are unresponsive and bad.
Oh, they're bad.
Genuinely unresponsive and bad. I remember holding moving left, and literally a second later the guy's like, "Okay, I'm on." Here we go. Yeah. So yeah,
what I didn't like was so there was the one button projectiles, like you mentioned, Char, which was fine, but the other button, the B button, was you're boosting into the air.
Yeah,
I could not find a good use for going into the sky except getting my ass handed to me and knocked right back down. And if the enemy flew in the air for some reason, I would use my projectile button, and there's no tracking, and you would miss more often than not. The controls absolutely terrible. It just some neat ideas for Midway, but this was such a generic, awful 3D game. It really was.
It just felt like they were trying to do something outside of Mortal Kombat with the same concepts as Mortal Kombat, but in a 3D environment. We're going to utilize the power that the N64 provides, and we're going to try and make a fighting game that's Mortal Kombat, but it's not Mortal Kombat because there was no finishers or anything. But you could dissect your fighter or your enemy literally in the middle of the fight, so it was still very Midway.
What's the Marvel Midway game that is based on the same engine as Mortal Kombat? It's popular.
Marvel. Injustice.
Injustice.
Injustice. DC. It's not Marvel.
feels.
Come on,
this feels. You're right. DC. Sorry, I got my studios confused.
It's okay.
I apologize,
DC's
internet.
gonna hate us.
Don't at me, internet. Or at me. I don't know. Come join our Discord and yell at me. While you're at it, like and subscribe. We are shilling for subscriptions. They're free. Anyway,
Wow.
but this feels like somebody took and had the idea for Injustice years before Injustice existed. Like, that's what it feels like to me. And they didn't have the right tech to do it, right? So, because if you look at
or
like
the
kind of
license to kill.
yeah, but if you look at like kind of the arena movement and everything, it looks like Injustice or kind of the later Mortal Kombat games, right? I mean,
Right. I mean,
So-
everything's got to have a springboard, right? I mean, you got to have some kind of foundation to work on. And 90% of the time, it's not going to be fantastic coming out the gate. But we'd never seen anything quite like this. And the only thing we had was Mortal Kombat. So, you know, everybody's human. Let's take some creature. I mean, you had Killer Instinct. Sorry, don't at me. I'm wrong. But you had some cool, like, the whole point of it. I'm trying to formulate my words here. The whole point of it was that these cool robotic creatures and beasts and monsters that you can fight and shit. And you're like, those guys look cool. Like every creature you could play was cool looking. And that's the only reason you want to get it. Oh my God, I could rip that guy's arm off. No way. Oh, this guy's got guns for arms. That's sick. It was purely like,
Not practical, but
don't-
okay.
it's not practical, but don't judge a book by its cover kind of thing. You know what I mean?
I will admit, because I lost my arm in one of the battles, and it continued through the next battle. Like, I didn't have my arm in the next battle, and it was
you don't regenerate.
it had moved to like swinging backhand and front hand instead of like, it was. I mean, that was actually really cool. I agree, that was
It's a cool concept,
fantastic.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's like Mutant League football, but the fighting game.
yeah.
So I mean, that's BioFreaks, and I was surprised to see that this was from Midway. So I won't bring it up anymore on there, but they had a few other ones. They had
There's
Mace,
more.
the Dark Age, and they had War Gods. All three of them are by Midway. All of them on the N64. All of them are pretty bad. I mean, I don't know if we want to dive into them, but if you check them out, it's so awful.
I don't know if it's Midway, but I do want to touch on Deadly Arts because if nothing else, once again, 3D arena, but this one was bad because there were lockers in the battle arena that I was in, and when the camera moved in, the lockers got in your camera and went semi-transparent. No game does that anymore. Like, it just
anymore.
Yeah, but I
Even
mean,
then,
somebody was like, it'd be really cool. The camera's behind the lockers. It's behind the lockers.
What if you couldn't see shit?
But
How cool
but-
would that be?
And the boss is like, well, how do we handle that? Well, they go semi-transparent. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Not
Well,
as opaque.
This was Konami in 1998, and you're right. This is a bad one too. The controls were shitty. The graphics, although they were cleaner polygons, is that a thing? I guess, but it still looked terrible.
I mean,
But
you could have
it had one thing going for it that I found unique. It has a creative fighter mode. You can build your own fighter and pick from various different.
I never got to
outfits,
that.
body sizes, all that kind of stuff. For the N64 back then, that's pretty cool. Game still sucks, but it had a really cool idea, right?
I like that
That's
Jake.
crazy.
I like that Jake's video immediately goes to create a fighter.
Well, yeah. I would expect nothing less.
Look, I'm
From
not
the
saying I was
man
looking for
that has a
boob slider,
literal
but I was looking
village
for a
in
boob slider.
Valheim.
He was looking for a boob slider. Fair enough.
Yeah, they did not have one, but alas. So, 3D
Alas,
fighters,
no boob
not
slider.
the greatest, not the greatest in the N64. So you're thinking, okay, there's a D-pad in this controller. It's got 6 face buttons. Maybe it's better at 2D fighting games. Mortal Kombat Trilogy is not so bad. But there's another 2D fighter on this system, and this one by Interplay was hyped in every magazine I read. I saw commercials for this damn thing. It was on SNES, Genesis, and also had a version on the N64, and it's Clayfighter 63 and a third.
Clayfighter.
I want this on the list for a couple
63
reasons.
and a third. I love how the
Well, this
whole
is-
game is a joke within itself. Like, I
Well,
love
that's a-
that about
that's a-
Clayfighter.
That's a joke off of Naked Gun,
Yeah.
33 and
Yeah.
a third or whatever, right? That's the same damn
Yeah.
thing. They just stole their humor. But this game is claymation rendered graphics, but it has Earthworm Jim, it has Booger Man, it has a few cameo characters, and Earthworm Jim actually looks decent in the game. But the frame rate is awful. Like it's just so janky. The controls, I was trying to do the super move, which everybody seems to have the same Dragon Punch super move, which is bizarre. But half the time you don't pull it off. I pull off a different move by accident, and just trying to fight the AI. The only way to play this game, the only way to beat this game, or at least get a few stages in, was to just cheese the same move again and again. And you'll see me when I'm playing this in the gameplay. I just cheese the crap out of Earthworm Jim's gun. But why this game is truly bad. Graphics, music, controls, all of them are terrible. Nothing is good. But the thing that makes it on this worst of list is the stereotypes and the racism.
Oh,
And
no.
why God is this a 90s thing? Okay, first off, you have a witch doctor, a voodoo man, who throws chickens at you and tells you to cluck off. Funny, I get it. Okay, but the voodoo stereotypical accent, that was bad enough. Then I came across one character, Kung Pao,
Oh, no.
and like we're talking the stereotypical, the haircut, the teeth, the accent, the moves. It like it's just it like the poo poo platter move and chop suey. Like, how the hell, even in the 90s, how the hell did this get made? I don't understand. This is bad on a whole other level, even for the freaking 90s. So I don't know if did you guys play Clayfighter?
No. Well, I played the
I didn't play
Clayfighter.
64.
Yeah,
I played 1 and 2 for the
Right.
Super
Okay.
Nintendo. But I never touched this one. I didn't realize that Earthworm Jim and, some other characters from other games showed up in this. This is almost like the first fighting game that had introductory characters that we talked
Oh,
about in the past. I mean,
no.
like Soul Calibur and stuff like that, where Legend of Zelda was in, depending if you got it on GameCube or if you got it on something else, another character for that system was in. That was a kind of a neat thing, but
I'm
fucking
showing
Clayfighter,
I'm
Jesus
showing
Christ.
this on I'm showing this on the video right now. This is bad. This is
It's pretty
this is Kung Pao. This is bad.
Yeah.
Now, the thing about Clayfighter was that initially, in at least the first two, and I'm kind of seeing it here, but it's like you were balls of clay, so you could do cool clay shit, like it would melt into itself and it would form into different things, and that's kind of neat. But I what I'm trying to understand is why Earthworm Jim would be part of the Clayfighter franchise.
Because Earthworm Jim was published by Interplay or develop Interplay, and they did this too. That's the only
Gotcha.
reason, I think. And I mean, I like the character
Is he-
Earthworm Jim. They even got the voice actor from the cartoon to do this game, which is such a
wow.
waste.
Is this guy blocking with a walk?
Yes. Yeah.
This is bad.
Yeah. Like
This is something.
this is a game that could never come out today. And
No.
there'll never be a
Oh, no.
Clayfighter remaster.
We might even
And
be
if there is, they're
canceled after
taking a
this
whole lot of
fucking
this game out.
episode. We better find a new game to play. 'Cause I don't want to lose our rights.
Yeah.
It's this
You're gonna
podcast.
get canceled.
Yeah, I'm getting off that screen now.
Getting off the screen.
Okay.
Jesus.
So
Rough.
I mean, fighting games, right? N64, maybe not the greatest at fighting games. Not really known for fighting games. It's not the PlayStation, right? It's its own thing. There, like I said, Mortal Kombat trilogy, not bad. Killer Instinct, fantastic. It had a couple, but by and large, most of the fighters in the system were very generic, racist for some reason, and just awful.
Yeah.
So let's go to a genre where the N64 probably more comfortable, probably more better known for. Maybe let's look at platforming games. I want to start off with Buck Bumble. Okay.
Mm.
Now, there's one good thing about this game, and I didn't get it in the video, but for anybody watching after we stream, I want you to go look up the soundtrack of Buck Bumble, and I want you to listen to the first 60 seconds of that opening title music. It slaps. This is like one of the best game soundtracks I've ever heard. Like, it just got a driving note. It just hits. Buck Bumble's got great OST. I wish the rest of the game matched the music. This is done by Argo Software. Was it Argonaut Software?
Argonaut.
Yeah. So those are that's the Star Fox guys. So you're thinking,
well,
Star
it looks
Fox
like
is
a
pretty
Star.
good,
I mean, it's a flight simulator essentially, right? I mean,
except you're a mechanical bee and you got a ray gun and you're shooting hornets.
it's the same thing. You're still a flying creature.
Mm.
And
But
it's in
you can
England.
do a barrel roll, like you can do the barrel roll.
But does it have a character that goes burr, 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 burr?
I really hope somebody says in Buck Bumble, do a barrel roll.
Sadly, no. I don't think there was any dialogue when I played. But why this game is bad is the controls. Now, this is where I would love to play with an original N64 controller, because when I was trying it with this is the only game on the N64 emulator that I was messing with, where if you push the stick too far left or too far right,
Mhm.
it got real wonky, to the point where if I pushed too far to the left, it would wrap around and go to the right, and it felt so disturbingly wrong. And I don't know if that was like that on the original or not, but I had to have a light touch on the analog stick. And the last half of this gameplay, all you see me doing is running into walls, hitting the ground, flying into objects. I couldn't get anywhere. The moment I got any kind of momentum in flying to get to the next level, I screwed it up by hitting the joystick too far to the left or right and flying into a wall. I felt like a drunk bee instead of some ray gun ninja. Like it was just so bad. This game is awful.
Oh, there you are. You're just whamming into the wall.
Yep, there it is. Yeah,
Like,
I
there's a
think this
windshield,
one
I
is
flew
probably
into it.
specifically designed to use the N64 controller to do like the touch movements, because you could tell that, I mean, playing Mario 64, for example, there was definitely some tactile feel to using the controller. You could walk with Mario or you could run, and you can definitely adjust where you're going with that. So instead of just pressing the button in any direction, that's kind of where the start of the tactile feel of the motion controls would started, was over here in the 64. So it makes sense that playing this on anything else I would be running into walls too on any other controller without using some kind of something that had the ability to use, like, I don't know, my PS5 controller would probably be a great candidate for this.
Sure. Why not?
It's not my fault you have big hands.
So Bug Bumble, terrible game, but banging soundtrack. Now there's another platform game which I'm not going to call a gem, but it's definitely hidden. It's a game I never heard of until this week, and it's Starshot
Yeah.
Space Circus Fever.
Oh,
Uh,
Jesus.
I had to practice saying that name. I think, Sinistar, you want to talk about this one, but can you please
Yeah.
start and try and explain to me why this game has big titty cops in it right from the first
Well,
30 seconds?
well,
I can't figure it out.
I also want to call out that, like, the exposition at the beginning of this, you're some sort of thing in space. Like, I don't understand. And the characters literally are the bad version of the trumpet from Peanuts, from Snoopy. Right? And yeah, basically, but they're more like like,
that's more South Park than
I guess that's true. But then they apparently come to a planet and they launch a missile at this planet, and you're like, oh, well, we're starting here. And the missile, right before it gets to the ground, halts in motion. You'll see this. Oh, it just stopped.
Like standard missiles.
And then flips itself over and lands on its tail. Because apparently this missile was designed by Elon Musk. And
it's reusable.
Yeah, and then it becomes this weird platformer where the main space dude literally says the phrase, I need to see, we have it somewhere, but it's something like, I don't have any money, I never did, lol. Like, but then
fantastic storytelling.
There's this like weird like I don't know, Jessica Rabbit style cop right there. But also the 3D platforming is just bad. It has the stupid camera like in Mario, where it's the C buttons. And you pick up ammo and you pick up and it's not understandable. Like, I don't know. I played this for 25, 30 minutes, and I still had no concept of how this game worked.
Just when I thought I understood how to play, and I thought I was getting somewhere in the level, I got lost.
Yeah.
And then I found like a wooden plank section, and you have to go across this wooden plank, and there's these fish that jump across. So I'm trying to dodge the fish, going down, and even the plank gets smaller and smaller as you go. And it became a true platforming game. And then this game with the camera, it's ass. But the fish would knock me over into the water. Like, okay, I can swim out. Sure. But there's piranha in the water that instantly kill you when you
Mm-hmm.
fall in the water.
Mm-hmm.
So I died like 4 or 5 times in that one section getting hit by the fish until eventually I realized, oh, you can shoot the fish, but you have limited ammo
Right.
and your gun sucks. Like it's not controllable really well.
Right.
So like there's some ideas here with movement, but for a 3D platform, it controls really bad. The frame rate dips quite often. I don't understand the big titty cops. I just don't in a game with colorful aliens. I mean, it's a French game. Is that why? Is that a French thing? I don't
Maybe.
know.
Maybe it's a
I,
Do
I
you-
I
don't
don't
get
know.
it.
You're closer
Like
to the French than
G-strings,
we
big
are, Jake.
boobs.
Are the French interested in launching
Ask
missiles?
Quebec.
Are the French
Oh.
interested in launching circus
No,
missiles at
because
planets?
the French are lay tired, and they'll have a nap, then fire them anyways. There's a callback for you.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
game reminds me, as broken and fucked up as it is, this game reminds me of Spyro. Like, it has the same kind of design. No, listen, just hear me out. It's got the same kind of 3D platforming look, right? This definitely looks like it's the basis for a lot of PS1 style platformers, where it's got the camera, it's got the 3D look, you're collecting shit, and you're trying to kill it. It reminds me of Spyro. It looks very much like Spyro. You're shooting this dude who doesn't die, which I don't understand what that's about. You got this thing following you, so it's like the dragonfly that indicates your life. I mean, it's essentially the basis for Spyro. They just were like, this is dumb, let's make a real good game, and they made Spyro instead.
It's just Spyro controls so much better, and I never got
Oh,
lost
well,
in Spyro.
yeah.
I always know where to
But
go
this
in
came out
Spyro.
before
In this game,
Spyro,
I
right?
had no idea, and it has a map, and I still had no idea what to do.
Right.
Right.
So this was
Yeah.
this was not a great one. I don't know. Starshot Space Circus Fever. It is no Circus Charlie, but few games.
We have literally called it everything but its original name because honestly, remembering Starshot Space Circus Fever is tiresome.
Yeah.
We have
Space Shot,
yeah.
Circus Charlie, Hand Job is probably the best title. I think
Star
I would say.
Starfuckers Incorporated cheese.
A lot of Star.
Yeah, like
Another Nine Inch Nails reference.
right. They did my favorite cover, Hurt.
I hate it.
Okay.
Here.
There's at least 2 more I want to cover for sure. And the next one I want to cover is Paperboy 64. And I'm saying this because I don't think Paperboy for the NES might be on our top 100. If not, I think I know what I'm picking end of this episode, or maybe not.
Oh, shit,
But I
dude.
love the original Paperboy on Nintendo. And when I heard there was an N64 version, I was kind of excited. I thought it might be like Excite Bike 64. It might be kind of like a weird reimagining of it. And it kind of is. But in Paperboy, for those who have not played the original Nintendo, it's a straight street, and you're delivering papers. You're chucking them on your bike at the houses and the mailboxes. And when you get to the end, there's an obstacle course, and then it tallies up how many houses you delivered successfully to. In this game, you're still delivering papers, but there's a wonky 3D perspective, and it's like you have to deliver the left and the right side of the street, but you can't maneuver your bike to go from left to right very easily. And there's a few stages later on where the path divides, and it's like it's not just a straight line. It's always an oval or figure eight, and it kind of forces you to lap around the neighborhood multiple times to get all to the houses. It's really awkward controlling. And the worst part is when you need to throw the papers, you have to aim with the stick at the houses
I can see
and
this.
throw it. But moving with the stick to aim also moves the goddamn bike, and you fly off course and you hit a dog or a mailbox. There's one section where I got hit by a car 5 fucking times in the same loop because I couldn't get off the road because I was trying to deliver all the papers. And like for those who have not seen this game, go look it up. This is like stick figures in 3D form, and maybe it's a style choice, but man, is it ugly looking for a game.
Or if you're listening to this podcast, go view the YouTube channel because the video is playing right now.
And like I give it credit, there's multiple streets and environments, but they're all really short, and it just takes the fun of like you have a straight line, of course, that you're
Mhm.
trying to navigate through an obstacle course, and they put it on this infinite loop, and you're on a timer. Like you have like I think it's like 2 minutes to deliver your papers, and you've got to keep circling until you get it done, or until I think you get hit enough and you die. It's just it's like they took the soul out of Paperboy, and it's not a complicated concept. You're delivering newspapers. It's a fun game on the NES, and they ruined it by just everything. I don't understand. I don't understand any of the takes they did to bring this to 3D did not work for me at all. So I don't know if you guys played this one or not, but this one
No.
feels bad.
No, I've only played the original one. I've never played.
Oh, I
this
like
one.
that you just ran over a cat, though.
I don't know. I get the concept. You've got a brand new 3D like platform. It's not a platform, a 3D platform kind of game, right? You want to add aspects. You're going to take some older version of your NES games and you're going to make them 3D. I get the concept of trying to make Paperboy a lot more 3D. I get that's the best way to say it. But I mean, it's broken. It definitely looks broken instead of just doing a basic straight line kind of thing, like you were saying. And your bike looks like your front wheel's broken. I don't know. It looks like maybe you should probably get that looked at before you go out and start throwing papers around. So I get the
If
concept.
it wasn't broken in the beginning, it is by the time I'm done with it because I hit everything.
I mean,
okay.
it is what it is. But
hold on, I just have to point out we're in a trailer park. It looks like, and there's two dudes fighting on the dirt lawn. Fighting on the dirt lawn.
Have you never been in a trailer park before?
Well,
I'll tell you what.
I mean, I appreciate the realism.
No, my immersion.
The true to life Paperboy simulator. You have to deliver the free newspapers to the trailer park. Of course you do.
But
of course.
But I also feel like this may get us canceled as well. So...
this is a cancelable episode. I feel like this is bad. We're really pointing out some shit we probably shouldn't.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, this looks like this looks like a chore.
It's yeah. And
Sure.
But the second round of me playing through
papers,
this
of
week,
course it's a chore.
It's a chore.
You're working.
It's really you're not even getting paid. My daughter delivered papers. She didn't get paid jack crap. Nobody pays the paper boy and paper
she didn't
girl.
get
Nobody.
hit by a car 6 times in the same area, apparently.
Yep.
There's no work health and safety board in this game.
I like the person
OSHA does not approve.
I like the person that's throwing tires at you. Like
he's just kicking him into the street.
Uh-huh.
Like it's his daily routine. Like it's fucking 9 o'clock. I guess I better go start kicking tires out the street.
It's tire tossing time. Let's go.
I gotta have breakfast. I gotta clean the yard, and then I gotta start tossing tires. Sounds right.
Wow.
You wouldn't find a tire kicker in Canada. I guarantee that.
If they are, they're not throwing tires at you. All right, so that's Paperboy 64. This is a bad game.
They're not throwing tires with an I. They're throwing tires with a Y.
There you go.
Technically not in Canada.
I
see what the joke is.
The look on his face is so fucking annoying.
The tires of the Y is more of a UK thing. I know we speak different English than you guys, okay? But the tire with the Y is more of a UK thing. We have the I in Canada. We are allowed to have the I, okay?
Lowercase J's.
All right. The last one I have to talk about. This is a game that I'm putting on the Wheel of Pain. I'm surprised it's not on the Wheel of Pain already. Actually, it might be.
And you control the Wheel of Pain, so look at your own mirror, bud.
Yeah, I know. I'll be the one spinning it this year. I know. But Superman 64 on the Nintendo 64. There was going to be a PlayStation version of this, but it got canceled. There is an unreleased beta you can download to check out. It's bad. But the N64, this is the game that when you say bad N64, this is the game that people are talking about. This is a game that is so terrible. People who speedrun it found the most optimal way to speedrun this game is to go to the option and shrink the resolution down to the size of a postage stamp because it runs faster. It runs better. That's how bad this game is. But it's just everything from the lack of voices, the graphics, the story. Like you're stuck in a virtual world by Lex Luthor. So you're running through hoops to get to Lex. But the opening scene, the opening stage starts off with you have to fly through a series of rings. I got so fed up doing the flying through the rings.
Yeah.
I went to the menu, changed it to easy mode, and then load the stage up again, only to find out, hey, it skips the ring flying. I'm like, oh, that's great. But it starts you off in the second portion where you have 6 seconds to find a car and lift it and throw it out away stop from hitting a pedestrian. 6 seconds. That's how it opens the stage.
And that's on easy mode.
That's on easy mode. So that's what it was, and that's what this game is. The first world, I didn't finish the first stage. It's multiple segments, and all of them are timed. Whether it's 1:40 to finish these rings, which if you miss a ring, it flashes Lex wins and you start over. But you get to the end of that, you then go to this 6 seconds to save pedestrians from a car. And then the next one was it's something like you have to like pick up a cop car, as you do, and fly it to the end of a road while things are shooting rockets at you. And I screwed that up several times. And when you die, Lex wins. You start from the beginning of that segment again. It's just so bad.
Can I
hate
can
these
I
games.
ask a question? Are these kryptonite missiles? Because like missiles can't kill Superman.
I guess
Well-
because it's a virtual world, Lex can write the rules. Like there's a portion where you do have to beat up these shadow agents or something. There's 3 or 4 of them, and you're right. Like how the hell is a pedestrian like a minion doing anything to Superman? Except the clock. I guess the clock is like the kryptonite to Superman, right? He can't beat the stopwatch. But
Wow.
so
Well, listen,
I've seen people
if-
beat this game, and
If you're
every
if
stage
you're trying
is
to lift a
horrible like
car in
this.
6 seconds, maybe don't stroll towards the car. I don't know. Maybe
Well,
I
see,
don't know.
y-
Fly.
To fly, you have to hit the trigger button and hit the B button, and it's clunky. You have to hit both to go up
Oh, this
and then
is
start
awful.
flying forward. And if you mess up the
This game's
timing,
terrible.
you've wasted a second, you've lost. And then Lex wins, you start it all over again. The
This
entire
game's
game is
terrible.
like this. The entire freaking game. Every stage is just awful. I just don't get how this game exists with such a fantastic license. I really don't.
Yeah.
Well, isn't the Nintendo 64 basically where the term "the camera is the final boss" came from?
Probably.
I feel like that's where this originated from, because if anybody complains about anything in the N64, it is always the camera. Always.
Yeah. And like some games eventually got it okay, like some games, but yeah, just the idea they had 4 C buttons devoted to camera controls in a lot of these games, and it still didn't work. It just still
Yeah.
didn't work. We're lucky that today on controllers we have 2 analog sticks. Like it's hard to go back to this era and not have a right analog stick for camera control. It really is.
This is
I don't know, guys.
painful to watch.
Yeah.
And why
And
was
it's-
virtual reality the place to be? Why was VR the place to be in the late 90s, early 2000s? It was like, we're going to trap the greatest superheroes in virtual reality. They did the same thing with X-Men, if I remember right. When you played Clone Wars, I believe you were
yeah.
going through like different areas in virtual reality. You're like, I'm stuck in Cerebro. You're like, why? What? You're a fucking
Crazy.
mutant. Like, the world's already made up. Why do you have to put them in some kind of pretend world to make it make more sense? It's silly.
At least X-Men had the backstory of Cerebro to go with.
I mean, I'll give
Right.
you that, but I have VR right there. It's my turn to put up a vehicle card. I got my fucking VR sitting right over goddamn there. I have yet to have a problem fighting creatures outside of the real world. I don't know. I've never been trapped in my VR before. That's news to me.
Yeah.
Maybe we can look forward to being trapped in VR with the new Oculus Quest 3 when it comes out.
Well,
We can only
I'll
hope.
see if the Valve 2 has a VR stuck mode. I'll probably avoid that one.
It's like
Forever
the
trap mode.
it's like the I think it was Onion or somebody did that controller that was like had the instant death mode or whatever that would like inject you with like, you know, murder juice if you died in the game, and everybody was like,
Yeah.
I'm just totally into realism. It's great.
It's the real game, the game
Yeah.
of life,
Yeah.
life and death in VR. It's just
Uh,
that's not real unless I could die playing this video game.
But don't forget the final boss is the camera.
It's always the
Always.
camera.
Yeah.
Forever and
Yeah.
always.
So I don't know. Lots of bad games on this list. Is there any other titles you guys want to talk about that were bad for the N64? I have one honorable dismention. Dishonorable mention, I guess.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think you have the video of it, but there's a snowmobiling game called, I think it's Polaris something or other. It's bad.
Yeah.
What's that car game? What's that car game that we had talked about?
Oh, Arrow
like the-
Gauge.
Arrow Gauge.
Aero Gauge.
Arrow Gauge
I want to
is
give that one.
Arrow Gauge is okay, honestly.
Listen,
Yeah.
here's my thing about Aero Gauge. It's a car racing game, whatever. But let's give it the real tout that it needs. You can play as the N64 controller
Oh, is this
avatar
the one?
in the game. It is ridiculous. But your car literally turns into the controller itself, and you can use that as your avatar driving through the world. I was like, wow, that's a thing. I had a good laugh about that because I was thinking about Jake watching that video going, this has got to be his favorite game in the entire N64 category. Because not only is it on the N64, but it is also the controller of the N64, which is arguably his favorite controller in the entire system.
No, I wouldn't go that far. One of the worst
It's even
controllers
got the
ever made,
rumble
but
pack
we've done that
underneath it. I
episode
was like,
already.
there's some design. That looks great.
Yeah. Aero Gauge is okay.
Aero
I
Gauge,
mean,
yeah.
yeah.
My biggest complaint with Aero Gauge is it has a concept that doesn't need to exist in video games, which is you do the whole time trial first before you do the race. That's bullshit. And then
Yeah.
you can't move on to the next race unless you are in the top 3. So I never was able to get into the top 3 in my like 15-minute test run of it. So I never saw a
Gross.
second race, right? I never saw. So like these are concepts that I understand unlockables and stuff like that. Sure, have some tracks that are unlockables, but let me go select at least 4 different tracks, right?
Right.
So
like this is a genre that's already represented on the system really well. Like you have wipeouts on this system. The Extreme G is not a bad one.
F-Zero.
Wave Racer 64 too.
Yeah, F-Zero.
Wave,
right?
Was it Wave Racer 64 a thing too? I thought it was.
Probably.
It is, and it's actually one of the best games in the system in terms, especially looks. It has that water, right? But there's lots of great racing games.
Excite Bike 64.
Decent,
Mario Kart 64. I mean,
oh yeah.
Yeah.
And even like I was playing earlier, Diddy Kong Racing, also fantastic kart racer.
Yeah.
Like this, racing games are pretty great on the N64. I mean, even the Cruisin' World, Cruisin' USA, they're upgraded ports of the arcade game, and they play pretty well on the N64 as well. So racing games were done pretty good on this system. That's one of the strong points I think of the N64.
Yeah.
There's no Gran Turismo, but I mean, you can't throw bananas in Gran Turismo. Yeah.
Or turtle shells.
Or turtle shells. All right, I'll give you my dishonorable mention, and this is maybe you'll get a little flack for this one. Feel free to comment below. Tell me why I'm wrong. I'm used to it. It's up to these guys. But my dishonorable mention is Star Wars Shadow of the Empire, which is one of the, I think it was one of the launch titles, or it was very close. It came out in 96. And people like this game. They love Star Wars Shadow of the Empire. But I would argue they only like this game because of the first stage, which is the Battle of Hoth. And that's the thing I have a problem with. Every Star Wars game seems to start with the Battle of Hoth, and this is no different. And yes, you're a snowspeeder, you're shooting probe droids, you're shooting ATSTs, and there's even a section where you have to deploy the harpoon and do circles around the walkers. It's cool, yes, but everything else in that game, every stage after the first stage is ass. I'd love to show you on the YouTube video, but I spent 30 minutes playing the first stage and couldn't get past it because this game is also hard as fucking shit. Like it's brutally difficult. I even played it on easy and I still couldn't get anywhere in it. It's hard. Like the first stage is kill 3 probe droids. Okay, easy. Kill 2 walkers. Okay. Kill 2 walkers, 3 probe droids, and a giant walker. Okay. And then the last stage was like kill 2 walkers, 3 ST-ATSTs, and like 5 probe droids. Like, are you fucking kidding me now? I couldn't get past the first stage.
Shopping
but
list.
It's cool. Yeah.
Right.
But like the music is great. It's Star Wars soundtrack. How could it not be? The graphics in that stage look great. But if you do get past the first stage, you beat the Battle of Hoth, you end up having this, you're playing as Dash Rendar, and there's a lot of third-person platforming stages, and they all control, like, camera's your worst enemy. It's true. The controls are ass. There's a lot of instant death. I think if I remember right, there's a train level, and I remember falling off the train more than I want to admit as a kid. And it was just so frustratingly difficult. There's other vehicle levels. There's a swoop bike level. Swoop bikes, they go fast and they die real damn easy, or they get stuck quite often, and it just does not feel well at all. So people who like this one, I feel like they only like the first stage, and like me today, could not beat the first stage because if they did, they'd play the rest of this game and they'd probably think it's ass. It's really a weird, especially when it's a system where Rogue Squadron exists,
I want to
and that
call
is
out.
so much better of a game.
I want to call out your dedication to destroying that ATST because you
You were committed.
sacrificed yourself
Sacrificial
to
lamb.
destroy that
Yeah.
ATST. And
You
So-
were
yeah,
So you get to a point where you've taken enough damage, you look at your life counter, and you're like, I got 2 lives left. Let's not waste it. And you just plow into the walker and you take him down in one go. It was a choice. That's
I
this game.
mean, there's some cool collisionary things in this game. I mean, that being the one of them where you can actually suicide into something and it actually matters, as opposed to, if you're playing, say, I don't know, TIE Fighter, and you hit something and it's like it just keeps on going. You're like, well, my explosion should have done a little bit of damage, so at least added it to that. But I mean, this game is such maybe it is a nostalgia thing. I don't know, but this was the first chance we got to fly as a snow speeder and take out ATSTs and AT-ATs and all that stuff. It's
Was it?
definitely got a good grip to it, but beyond that, I don't know if I played anything beyond the Battle of Hoth, to be honest with you.
we've
I
already
remember this being cool as shit.
we've already been over the Star Wars games on the SNES. So
Yeah.
That's right.
Tatooine has a
The
lot more
SNES
parts to
SNES
it
one
than I
had a
remember
snowspeeder
in the
level.
movies.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's and I understand people do like this one. I do. Dash Rendar as a character, he's cool. I have no complaints there, but I feel like this is one where rose tinted glasses, you're going back in time. It's the first stage is great after
Sure.
that. And like especially when like there's games like, X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, I think are far better on PC than this game could ever hope to be.
oh yeah.
I think they ruin it with those third person stages. Like Rogue Squadron came out a couple years later, and that game is fantastic. And I don't know.
Now I want to call out because my top 100 game today honestly may be rose tinted glasses. We'll have a discussion about it. Rose tinted glasses or member berries are huge. They are huge, right? I mean, and we also had a lot more patience when we were kids. And hey, if we spent 3 hours doing a battle, who cares? We didn't have life
Right.
to go do otherwise, right?
Right.
So
I get it.
Yeah.
I think my top 100 has definitely got a lot of clout, so I'm pretty excited about mine.
Okay.
Well, so for the N64, then I guess I think we're done for the topic this week. I do want to hear from people in Discord and on YouTube, and hell, shoot us an email, podcast@pressbtcancel.com. I want to know what games you felt were bad on the N64. Did you get stuck with one? You know that game bought by grandma that was terrible? A game that you didn't even want to rent. It was so terrible. Because I'd love to hear it. Because there's a lot on the system that was new to me when I was going through this list this week. Like Starshot, Space Fucker, whatever the hell it was. Never even heard that game before. Never even heard of that before. And I've played a lot of retro over the years, and I'd never heard that one. So if you have a game like that you've never heard of before, share it with us. I want to know. But we've got some business to take care of. Over at Press B to Cancel, we are assembling our top 100 games we feel you need to play. And we're getting very close. I think we're almost up to 80 games. I'm going to have to put a list up in the Discord just so folks can see where we're at.
Yeah.
We got
But we're
I was
getting
gonna
up
say we
there.
got like 3 months to get the rest of this shit done. So
Yeah.
Well, we'll be done. I mean, I think
Yeah.
we're pretty good. I mean, we're adding 3 more nominees this week. So we add a nominee. Each of us adds a nominee each week to the list, and then at some point later this year, we're going to do some episodes or an episode on ranking those 100 games to determine the best games ever, according to us. Anyway, it's all subjective. So, who wants to start this week with their top 100 nominee? Char, you want to go?
I'll go ahead and go first. So as most of you know, I'm fairly adamant about my RPGs and the RPG spectrum. And I decided to go back to some roots and go back to what was called in the PlayStation 1 era the Final Fantasy Killer. This game came out in 1998, I believe, and it is the Legend of Dragoon. Legend of Dragoon is a turn-based 3D adventure. I'm looking at the dates. Actually, it was 99 in Japan, 2000 in North America, and 2001 in Europe. For those of you who have not played Legend of Dragoon, you guys are doing yourselves a huge disservice. It was published by Sony Computer Entertainment, so it came out kind of in tandem with the PlayStation 1 and was designed to be the better Final Fantasy. But despite this, it does have a huge cult following, but never made it beyond the first game. We've had people that are clamoring to get at least a Dragoon remake or something along those lines. So you play as Dart, the main character, and you are trying to discover your past as you cruise through all this other stuff that's going on. You meet these cool characters. You have the ability to turn into basically a dragon-esque type fighter, and you also fight dragons and take their souls as you continue through the game. It's a fantastic RPG. It's got an amazing story, killer soundtrack. Um, I mean, and with all sense and purposes, it should have been better than it was, but for some reason, never made it beyond the first game, which is a damn shame. It's got, much like the Mario RPG, it's got active attacking in battles, so you can time your button hits at the right time and do some cooler stuff. And you expanded on that, so you would get different styles of fighting as you were continued through the game. There's a lot of really cool aspects to this game, and if you have never touched Legend of Dragoon, do yourself a favor and sit down for a couple weekends and give this thing a fire. This thing belongs on the top 10 without question, and I'm sorry it took this long to get to it. So, Legend of Dragoon, top 100 for me.
I think we did a JRPG music episode or a music episode, and I think this is the game that got mentioned for having a great soundtrack. I think.
It should have. It's got a rockin', it's
Yeah.
got a banger of a soundtrack. There's a lot of good like rock style music that it's not like Umatsu style, like take you away ethereal kind of stuff. It's very like Rob Zombie wrote this shit, kind of
Oh,
like,
really? Okay.
yeah, it's got some
Interesting.
good chugging guitar parts into it, and I was impressed from start to finish. I hadn't played it. I played it maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and I badged it on RA, and it is awesome. It's a fun game to play. It's got a lot of cool shit. Characters are all really cool. It's got some hard hitting like storytelling where you're losing characters and gaining characters and whatnot. It's a great RPG. So I would suggest
Is there
Legend
a
of
ninja?
Dragoon 2
Is
literally
there a
anybody.
ninja? And did you use the ninja?
There might be a ninja in there. I don't know, but I probably
Automatically
didn't play
best
him.
character. I don't know.
So
Legend of
that's
Dragon. I
mine.
never
That's
did play
mine for the
that.
week.
I thought it was a
Check it
franchise.
out.
That's why I never got into it. I thought there was multiple games in the series, and I didn't want to get into it. But if it's just one game, I
No,
might check it out.
no, they have literally been holding the torches up for a Legend of Dragoon remake or something, and they keep teasing people with the possibility of one.
Right.
So we might see one here soon. I would recommend it. It is great. It's a great game on the PS1.
Okay. Great. Legend of Dragoon and PS1. Sinister, what do you got this week?
I am going with the Lord of RNG bullshittery, XCOM UFO Defense, or
Gross.
UFO Enemy Unknown. Take your pick on what it was called. But the original XCOM game, I don't
Okay.
even know how to categorize this game.
It's a
Because
tactical RPG, yeah.
it's
It's a 4X
well,
game, kind of, right?
it's turn-based combat, it's tactical combat, it's squad combat, but it also has an element of like set up your base and build your base and upgrade your characters and this, that, and the other. And so it's kind of this combination of a couple different things. But I love it because it's very hard. It's one of those games where it's like there's so much of that. Do I save A or do I save B? Because I can't get to both places at the same time, right? And
Hmm.
so you have a lot of that strife. Like I can't tell you how many times I was like, please, I want to save all the people, right? Like it's that completionist, right? And it kind of teaches you that. But it also teaches you like, hey, this is a little D&D-ish because even when you have a D20 die, remember that rolling a 1 is just as likely as rolling a 20. And so when it tells you 90% chance to hit, that's a 10% chance to miss. And it happens a decent amount, right? But I wanted to call it out. It's the daddy of the genre. It's the daddy of the series. And it led to some real bangers. Like the modern XCOM games are. So this is why I'm saying this has a lot of member berries, because I haven't gone back and played this version in years. And I've played the new ones multiple times in the past handful of years, and I love them. I love them front to back. So I'm calling this one out. I believe it belongs on the list because it is the daddy of all of them, and I remember it being fantastic. I remember feeling like this is a new type of game and it's awesome. So,
Yeah. For me, it's kind of like if I go back and play Jagged Alliance. I really liked Jagged Alliance when I was younger. Going back to it today is very difficult. But I have nothing but respect for what it did for the genre. And XCOM is like that. XCOM is kind of hard to go back to now, but you can't not have it in the list because you look at what it gave us, right? The
Yeah.
newer XCOM games, like you said, are fantastic. Even Marvel Midnight Suns.
mm-hmm.
That's the same
Mhm.
team that made the
Yeah,
more
it plays
recent
exactly
XCOM
this.
games. So
Well,
there's a lot of
it
influence in
definitely
Midnight Suns.
looks and plays the same way. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very similar. So it's that style of game, and the original XCOM is thanks for that. So this is one of those, like you said, grandfather, granddaddy. This is like a legacy thing. I believe it absolutely needs to be on that list. It's something that needs to be played. That's
Yeah.
a good pick.
And if you can't play it, or if you try to spin it up and you're like, because it's also old school hard, go grab one of the modern XCOM games. I can nearly guarantee you're not going to be disappointed. Honestly, I don't know of anybody that's been like, that's a bad game.
Yeah, like it's just the newer ones are just there's just tactics goodness. Like it really is so good. Like it just I love how you get these characters. There's not much story to the characters, right?
Right.
And they are disposable. They can die, but you kind of like get attached to them and you start to really like it. And when they die, you really get pissed off and you feel lost.
Yeah,
There's few games where I feel lost for a character when they die, and XCOM does that.
yeah. You have the falling over in the rain in the movie, and the camera's flying up from you, and you're going, no, when somebody
Fucking
dies.
platoon.
Yeah.
Not Sanchez. He was my guy. He was my sniper.
Right.
I fucking need him. And you got to start from scratch with somebody
Yeah.
else. Yeah, XCOM is a good franchise.
Yeah.
All right. So my pick. Wow, those are good picks. All right. So my pick is
Wow.
Like,
Wow.
I don't
He
know.
hasn't even played mine and he said it's a good pick.
Well, the soundtrack on yours was a good pick. It looked
Yeah.
good.
I like how
Who
he's
am I to argue with Charge?
I like how
We
he's
like games.
I like how he's preloading his. He's like, wow, those were some good picks. Guys,
Shit,
get ready.
I should have gone first.
Get ready for this turd.
I fucking swear to God, if you pick Circus Charlie, I'm leaving this podcast right now. I'm done. I'm like, hey guys, this has been a great run. I don't know.
All right. Now that you've
Look,
set this, now that
I'm
you've
just
lined
gonna
this
say
up,
my game was made by Blizzard. You know,
Okay.
it's nothing special. But anyway, it's made by Blizzard. My pick is Lost Vikings, and I think we
Oh,
spoke a little bit the other
okay.
week about the sequel game.
No,
But the
I'm
original
good.
Lost Vikings. It's a little bit of platforming, and a little bit of puzzling. Hugely great cartoon characters. There's a lot of humor to their banter between stages. It's just a great, fun, approachable puzzle game. I'm going to explicitly say the Genesis version of Lost Vikings. There was a version on Super Nintendo, and I think there's a PC version too. But the Genesis version had exclusive worlds and stages added to it, and it has that. And I think the music is better than Genesis. But I'm a Genesis kid. But Lost Vikings, you have three characters. For those who don't know, you have three characters. One can run and jump. Yes, that's his abilities. And the other guy has a sword and bow and arrow, so he can attack. And your third guy, he eats and burps, and I think he has a shield, so he can fly a little bit.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you control all three individually to
Mhm.
get through the environments. And the stages, you're basically traveling through time, trying to get back home to wherever Vikings live.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of charm to the stages, a lot of cool, funny bits. All the
Finland?
enemies are animated really well and very cute. A unique style to every stage. The Egypt stage, totally different than the space stages, totally different than the caverns. I think the exclusive stages are like a Candyland thing. It's been a while since I played it, but it's really good. Very challenging.
I firmly support your this should be on the list as well. I agree.
Yeah.
When we were talking about the end of life releases for the SNES and we brought up Lost Vikings 2, I was like, I remember the first one and it was great. Like it brought up the member berries, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, you said Blizzard, and I thought you were going to go with like what everybody knows fucking Blizzard for back then, and you said Lost Vikings, and I went, yes, I can hang with that.
Wait, what were you thinking? Because
I was thinking he was going to go with some kind of Warcraft denomination.
Blackthorn
2 is good
already.
Because Blackthorn may need to be on the list.
I know we talked about Blackthorn before.
We did
that's
talk
the one where
about
you can shoot
Blackthorn.
the shotgun behind you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the ends are pretty
and
good.
you
Yeah.
and you can like hug up against the wall and yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we know what Sinistar's picking next Friday. So.
Yeah. No, Blizzard. This is back when Blizzard made games that were good
Yeah.
before they got bought out by the devil Activision, right?
Yeah.
Back in the day. So, all right. So that's our top 100 entries. Good entries this week. Feel free to check out our Discord. Oh, there's the Diablo. Yep.
Diablo.
Diablo 4 fan right
Dabble in these low.
2. Come
2.
on.
there. Feel free to check out our Discord. You can find links at pressbtocancel.com. You can also find links to so you can listen to our show on any of your favorite audio podcasts from Amazon Music. Feel free to ask Amazon, hey, Alexa, play Press Me to Cancel. It should work. If it doesn't, well, I mean, I can't fix your Alexa for you. You got to learn to set it up properly.
Say,
But you can
hey,
also check us
computer,
out on
'cause that's
YouTube,
another option.
youtube.com/@pressbtocancel. Please do drop us a subscription. We are trying to get to 500 subscribers so we can do the stuff that comes with that. So we're working on that for you guys. In terms of what else is happening on the channel lately, Wolf generally streams every Wednesday evening or afternoon. He's playing his Wolf's Wildcard Wednesdays. And he plays a random game. He played, I think, Miss Pac-Man this week on the PlayStation 1, a game I did not know existed and looked interesting. Let's play the fun ones. I'm not sure you guys have been doing anything lately. I think everybody's just kind of catching up from the last few weeks.
Work has been sucking the soul out of my body, and I've been unable to do my backlog blitz. I'm still working on trying to get something out, but I promise that you will soon see something from me here in the near future.
And I am a little behind on my Telltale games. I'm going to get back to that hopefully this coming week. I'm going to try to get a couple more hours out this week on Back to the Future, the video game, not the movie.
And I have, so since I've finished moving finally, although the unpacking will last me another 6 months, but at least I've moved now. And I got everything set up. So I'm working on going through the Atari library. I have a few video ideas regarding the Atari 2600 I want to put together. And I also ordered a Sassy. It's an analog arcade stick, homemade analog arcade stick that a guy sells on Etsy. And I've seen nobody talk about this thing, and it's really exciting for me. So when that comes out, I'll be doing a video about the Sassy stick, and look forward to that one. Otherwise, check Chard out. He streams on twitch.tv/chardmonk. I think he's the only one who streams on Twitch. He's our bastion of streaming, and he's pointing upwards. And otherwise,
doing a little Cyberpunk this
Cancel.
weekend, and probably some continuation of that. I know October is usually spooky month, but I'll tell you what, this 2.01 version update to Cyberpunk is, we're sandwiching this episode with the start of Cyberpunk and the end of Cyberpunk. It's fantastic. There might be an episode here in the near future of us discussing it. So
yeah, both the update and the DLC Phantom Liberty are surprisingly good. Yeah,
fucking
like
killer.
I've given up Baldur's Gate 3 to play Cyberpunk. This is how great it is.
It's really good.
So, all right, guys, we are Press Me to Cancel. Have a great week.
In a world where there's one woman for every 1,000 men.